Sana ang lahat ay sumama upang palawakin ang kaalaman.
Ating tuklasin, ating pagyamanin, lengguwahe, alpabeto, pati ang agham.
Sa hilig ng awitin, sama-samang umiyak. Sa edukalidad, enjoy lang. Tayo ay matutong magkwento at magbilang, mananaliksik ng ating kasaysayan. Edukasyon ay maitataguyod, sabay sa hamon ng panahon. At pagsikapan ang kinabukasan, at huwag sayangin ang pagkakataon. Learning is fun, let's enjoy everyone. Laging tandaan, sa edukalidad, enjoy lang.
Good morning, Region 10. Good day, senior high students. Welcome to Learn O'Clock, a radio-based instruction for the beloved learners of Region 10. I am Teacher Darlene, and I am here to deliver today's broadcast lesson on air. How was your Holy Week, everyone? Did you all cook foods like biko, suman, and binignit? But aside from that, we all know that Holy Week is a week of prayer and repentance. And I hope that all of you had gotten closer to God. How does a person become prudent in culture with overwhelming information and demands? Well, as we try to dig deeper in this module, we will be able to know how a person can come up with a quick decision or conclusion without being partial, but promoting the common good of everyone. This will also introduce the rigors of intuitive and strategic analysis and how both could work in hand. But before we start, I want all of you to prepare your modules and also a pen in case you needed to take down notes. Also, please open your modules to page 8. Let us first start with a simple puzzle. So this puzzle will help us define the terms that we're going to encounter as we go through this module. We will not answer all. We will only answer 2 questions and we'll let you do the rest after listening the lesson for today. Let us answer number 1 first. On number 1 down, it states there the action of being able to retrieve any documentation one has kept. Students, do you have any idea what this word is? Well, I will give you a hint. It is a 7-letter word that starts with R and ends with R. Did a word pop up in your minds? Then what word is that? Very good. The answer is recover. Give yourselves 2 claps for answering it right. Now, let's move on to the next number. So for number 2 down, it states here that this word presents a narrative of scenarios. What could it be? Do you have any idea what the answer is? Wow, that's good to hear, students. So, what is the answer? That's correct, students. The answer is narratives. Give yourselves 2 claps for that. Thank you for helping me think of the answer for the first 2 puzzles, students. But speaking of the word think, all I can say is that we all think. We have no choice but to think. In fact, the great Aristotle described as humans as thinking being. However, could we challenge ourselves to think at a higher level? Is thinking a skill that could be improved? How do often we actually think about the way we think? Well, let's find out. Thinking is an important part of our human experience and one that has captivated people for centuries. Thinking skills are the mental activities you use to process information, make connections, make decisions, and create new ideas. For us teachers as well as for you students, we use our thinking skills when we try to make sense of experiences. solve problems, make decisions, ask questions, make plans, or organize informations. Now, I want all of you to open your modules to page 10. And there was an activity where you need to put a check on each blank if the statement is true for yourself. I want all of you to answer it now. And please do bear in mind that there is no right answer for this one because it's all about yourself. I will give you 2 minutes to answer that. So, are you done answering, students? Well, I guess by answering that, you have realized something about yourself. So let me just share what I felt after answering. I felt somewhat surprised because most of those statements were true to me. And that statement that struck me most is statement number 6, which is, I verify and look for bases before concluding. What about you, students? You can share your thoughts and realization after answering this activity by posting it on Facebook. I will look forward to it. Moving on to our main topic for today's lesson. But first, do you have any idea what our topic for today is? Well, our topic for today is strategic analysis and intuitive thinking. I'm sure you are all aware of what our topic is all about after answering 2 activities that are related to it. So, how do we define strategic analysis? Let us all read its definition that is found on page 11 of your module. Strategic analysis refers to a system or method that requires deliberate, abstract, and effortful thinking that breaks down a complex problem into parts. Furthermore, deliberate thinking employs a detailed examination of a problem to come up with a solution. This involves looking at the context of the problem. So that's the meaning of strategic analysis. Now tell me, what are the primary factors in strategic analysis? Very good, everyone. You definitely read your module. So the primary factors in strategic analysis are the amount of time and resources. Now, I will ask you a semi-hard question. Do you have any idea why those 2 are the primary factors of strategic analysis? That's right, everyone. You really understood strategic analysis and its needs. The key purpose of strategic analysis is to break down a complex problem, and that definitely requires a lot of time and resources. Moving on, let us now tackle the 5 steps involved in strategic analysis. But in this module, we are going to make use of the most common strategic analysis. What are the 5 steps involved in strategic analysis? The first is very good. The first is identify, which involves defining the problem and the factors or conditions involved in the situation. The next is what? That's great, students. It is analyze. In this step, examining the variables that will change the state situations, including the potential challenges and its causes, is done. Now, what is the third step? That's right. The third one is generate. So in this step, setting practical, reasonable, and creative criteria and strategies to solve the problem is performed. The second to the last step is exactly right. It is implement. In implement, you just simply need to execute the plan. And the last one is you really are learning a lot today, students, and that makes me happy. So the last step needed in strategic analysis is assess and reflect on the outcome. So for this phase of the analysis, it is important to draw lessons that will guide future decision. So that's it. Wow, that's a job well done for you, students. So all of these steps will help us creatively address a certain situation. Were you able to understand this part of the lesson, students? That's good to hear. Now let's proceed to another focus of today's lesson, which is decision making. Are you wondering why there is a need for us to learn making decisions? Well, before we start, I want all of you to stand. I know it's very hard to learn a lot just one day. Are you all standing now? Okay, please stretch your arms as I count. Are you ready? Stretch up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Another one. Jump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you for your cooperation. Are you guys awake now? Are you ready to listen once again? Well, that's good to hear. So, moving on. Well, it is important for you to engage yourselves in decision-making activities for you to apply decision-making methods. Based on lesson earlier, we understood that strategic analysis is relevant in addressing your personal issues as a student. In other words, it means that you can analyze your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in order to make creative strategies or solutions in facing life challenges. In practice, a personal SWOT, which means strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, will help you understand your personal issues and goals as well as construct effective ways in dealing with both. Students, please take your time to read SWOT. It is found on page 12 of your module. So, on that diagram, there are questions that will help you identify your strengths and weaknesses. For sure, these are helpful for you when facing an obstacle in terms of decision making. So now, let's proceed to intuitive thinking. When I said the term intuitive thinking, what comes in your mind? Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts. So in your modules, intuitive thinking is defined as quick and ready insight. It is another approach to decision making. This is the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. But do you know that sometimes it is referred to as gut feeling? Sixth sense, inner sense, instinct, inner voice, spiritual guide, etc. Wow, intuitive thinking's definition is very self-explanatory. In my own opinion, I think that could be referred to as mother instinct because of the way it was defined. Am I right, students? However, intuitive decision-making is far more than using common sense because it involves additional sensors to perceive and be aware of the information from outside. In dealing with everyday life issues and situations, we're called to make immediate decisions based on our gut feeling and prior knowledge and experiences. This type of decision-making is evident in various situations. For example, a doctor assessing an emergency case, a teacher determining the reason for a child inattentiveness in class, a buyer examining which vegetable to buy in a parent, and a firefighter trying to rescue a fire victim. In this case, one could not hesitate or delay making decision because the situation need immediate action. And that is what intuitive thinking really is. Have you understand intuitive thinking now, students? Good for you! You outdid yourselves today. I know that's hard to take in a lot of knowledge, but I am so glad that all of you certainly did well today. Students, as you can see, the similarities and differences between strategic and intuitive thinking was shown in the Venn diagram that is found on page 13 of your module. The most important thing to note in this diagram is the similarity of the two, which is necessity of logical mind. Moving on to page 14 of your module, it is stated that each person is engaged in a variety of networks associated with his or her multiple roles and interests in the community, and who can tell me what these networks are? Marvelous! The networks which are associated with the multiple roles of a person and community are political networks, economic networks, and socio-cultural or social networks. I know that you have any idea of what these networks are. And so, for the political networks, what thought came into your mind? That's it. When we talk about political networks, these are composed of relations with government officials, student government, and community leaders, and others that's somewhat related to that. Very good, students. And what about the economic networks? What is the thing that comes into your mind when we say economic network? Good thinking, everyone. When we say economic, this would also refer to the manufacturers, sellers of goods that we people consume in stores, groceries, and markets, and other agents that are related to the economic status of our country. So those are economic networks. Students, do you remember the last type of networks that I said earlier? Good for you. You remembered. So the last type is social networks, and when we say social networks, this would always refer to Facebook, text messages, messenger chatting people, and the non-online socialization with people such as dance troupe, clubs, theater, company, and such. Now you have it, students. We are done with our topic for today, and I know that some of you are already tired. And because of that, let's first have an icebreaker before we proceed to our next activity. I want all of you to please stand up. Are you all standing now? Okay. Please stretch your arms as I count. Are you ready? Stretch up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Another one. Jump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you for your cooperation. Are you guys ready for our activity now? Are you ready to listen once again? Are you still with me, students? That's great. Now, please open your modules to page 18. We are going to answer some of the questions on what I can do activity. Let us first read the directions in answering. Directions. Using your understanding about strategic analysis and intuitive thinking, decide whether each situation requires intuitive thinking or strategic analysis. Provide a short explanation of your answer. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Please prepare your pen and paper, students. So for number 1, a doctor attending to the patients in the emergency room. What do you think is required in this situation? Is it intuitive thinking or is it strategic analysis? Incredible job! It is intuitive thinking. Why? Because the doctor doesn't have the ample amount of time to waste since it was an emergency. Do we have the same explanation, students? Excellent. Now let's move on to the next scenario. A scientist finding a cure for an infectious disease. What do you think is the answer? I guess you can easily answer this one. For me, the situation would require strategic analysis. Why? Because it would take a lot of time doing research and finding the right resources in curing an infectious disease. Are we on the same track, students? That's great! We will answer one more statement and then you will do the rest after our broadcast lesson. For number 3, the statement is a group of researchers solving climate change. What would be the answer? Isn't this situation somewhat similar to the previous one? That is right. Therefore, in this situation, the researchers would need to do a strategic analysis since climate change is an environmental issue that needs to be solved using various resources. Furthermore, it requires a lot of time solving this matter since June 23, 1988, when it was declared as a national issue. Now, that's the way how to answer it, students. Students, if you want to learn more about strategic analysis and intuitive learning, you may search on the internet for further examples. In such a way, you will have deeper understanding of the topic. I hope you learned a lot from today's session about the literary devices used in poetry. Thank you so much for being with us today. Stay tuned for more fun and learning here in Learn O'Clock. Again, this is Teacher Darlene leaving you with this quote. Alone, you are smart. Together, we are brilliant. Thank you and God bless us all.
The Department of Education recognizes the efforts of DepEd Cagayan de Oro, Makabalan National High School Senior High School Department for the RBI lesson Quarter 3 for Humanities and Social Sciences, Trends, Networks, and Critical Thinking in the 21st Century, presenting Darlene Daliva, Teacher Broadcaster, Sinead Baldilovar Franco, Scriptwriter, ICT and Editing, Suzime Roa-Fabular, and Production Manager, Maribeth T. Alman.